Hello fellow gardeners, welcome back to the Humus Heritage channel. Today we're tackling one of the most rewarding techniques in organic gardening, a method that will transform how you feed your hungriest plants. If you've ever felt frustrated watching your tomatoes, corn, and squash limp along, despite your best efforts, this guide is for you. The hidden hunger of your garden's most demanding plants tell a story. Those tomatoes that never quite reach their full potential, the corn stalks that seem stunted despite your care, the squash vines that produce smaller fruits than you'd hoped. These aren't signs of bad luck. They're signals that your plants are living on insufficient nutrition. Most traditional organic feeding methods deliver nutrients to the surface where they're quickly consumed or leached away before plants can fully access them. Surface compost, even quality applications, simply can't keep pace with heavy feeders' relentless appetites. The result is a garden that survives, but never truly thrives, where yields plateau and plant vigor remains mediocre. Imagine something different. Picture a garden where your tomatoes tower overhead with thick, vibrant stems. Visualize squash plants producing abundance throughout the season, and corn developing kernels that make you proud. This transformation isn't fantasy. It's entirely achievable through a simple but powerful technique that channels nutrients directly to the root zone where plants need them most. The trench breakthrough. Why does it work so well? Well, the nutrient trench operates on a principle that surface gardening just can't match. It creates a subterranean feeding system that works all year round, delivering a continuous buffet of nutrients directly where roots can access them. Forget the limitations of surface amendments that weather away or end up competing with weeds for resources. When you bury organic materials in a dedicated trench, you're really establishing an underground factory of decomposition producing plant nutrition on demand. This technique honestly goes way beyond just simple feeding. It fundamentally builds long-term soil health by establishing a vibrant microbial ecosystem deep within your growing bed. The decomposition process that unfolds in your trench isn't just breaking down organic matter. It's actually cultivating billions of beneficial microorganisms that transform raw materials into plant-available nutrients. Bacteria, fungi, and countless other soil organisms colonize the trench, creating networks that help your plants extract maximum nutrition from minimal input. The science underlying this method really reveals why it's so effective. As organic materials decompose in the moist, oxygen-rich environment of your trench, they release nutrients in a slow, sustained manner that closely mimics how plants naturally prefer to feed. Unlike synthetic fertilizers that cause nutrient surges and crashes, trench decomposition provides steady nutrition, allowing plants to grow methodically and robustly. The carbon-rich brown materials provide the energy that microbes need to function, while nitrogen-rich green materials accelerate decomposition and feed that microbial population. This balance between browns and greens isn't just arbitrary, it's honestly the foundation of why trenches work so reliably. Building your nutrient trench step by step. Let's get practical. Go ahead and grab your shovel and choose a spot in your garden where you plan to grow heavy feeders in the coming season. This could be the area where you're thinking about planting tomatoes next year, or maybe where your corn patch will thrive. The location really matters more than you might think, so be sure to avoid spots directly beneath established plants, since their roots could be disturbed. Your trench needs a little breathing room from existing vegetation. The ideal trench should measure about 12 to 18 inches deep and roughly 1 shovel's width across. The length is totally up to you. It depends on your plans. You might dig a short trench just a few feet long or stretch it out several yards if you're getting ready for a larger bed with multiple plants. As you dig, make sure to pile the removed soil close by because you'll need it soon to cap your trench. Now start building your trench layers with a carbon-rich foundation. Spread about 4 to 6 inches of coarse brown materials along the bottom. This can include things like small branches, straw, or shredded hardwood chips. This base layer is pretty important since it helps with drainage and encourages air circulation, which prevents those soggy, smelly conditions that can attract pests. Just think of it as the skeleton that keeps everything from turning into a waterlogged mess. Next comes the green layer, about 4 to 6 inches of nitrogen-rich materials. This is where your kitchen scraps really shine. Fruit and vegetable trimmings, coffee grounds, crushed eggshells, and similar items all create a nutrient-dense foundation for microbial activity. Just remember, you'll want to avoid meat, dairy, and oily foods, since those attract rodents and insects. We're keeping this clean and pleasant, after all. Oh, and coffee grounds are particularly valuable here, since they provide both carbon and nitrogen, while giving a nice boost to microbial activity. Now, you'll alternate, building what's basically a carbon sandwich with green filling. Aim for a ratio of roughly 2 to 3 parts brown to 1 part green. So, that might mean 5 inches of dried leaves, then 2 inches of kitchen scraps, followed by another layer of cardboard bits or straw, and then more greens. As you layer, go ahead and sprinkle water onto each section, just enough to create the feeling of a wrung-out sponge, damp throughout but never soggy. Moisture is what really activates the decomposition process. Without it, your materials are just going to sit there, dormant. Continue layering until your trench rises nearly to ground level, but leave a few inches of space at the top. Now comes the crucial step that makes this method truly clean. You're going to cover everything with 8 to 12 inches of your excavated soil. This soil blanket prevents odors from escaping, keeps pests from discovering your buried feast, and creates the stable environment where decomposition can really thrive. Finally, mark the trench location clearly with a rock, stake, or marker. Trust me, you don't want to accidentally dig it up before it's ready. Beyond the basics, trench maintenance and maximizing yields really become important here. This isn't a one-and-done technique, it's actually the beginning of a partnership with your soil. Over the following weeks and months, typically anywhere from 3 to 6 depending on temperature and moisture, your layered materials will break down. Now it's important to resist the temptation to plant immediately on top of the trench. As decomposition proceeds, the soil will settle noticeably as materials compress. Planting too early leads to sinking plants and poor root contact with nutrient sources. Patience is rewarded. By the following planting season, your trench area will have transformed into extraordinarily rich, nutrient-dense soil. When you plant your heavy feeders atop this prepared bed, their roots will encounter a depth of active nutrition-producing material. Your tomatoes will develop deep, vigorous root systems accessing steady nitrogen. Your corn will have access to phosphorus and potassium that promote strong stalks and abundant grain. Your squash will produce larger fruits with extended productivity. So, pay attention to how your plants respond. Heavy feeders that are growing above nutrient trenches will usually show deeper green foliage within just a few weeks, and that's a sure sign they're taking up plenty of nitrogen. You'll also notice the stems getting noticeably thicker compared to plants in regular soil. Flowering tends to be more abundant, and fruit set is way more reliable. These visual cues are your proof that the trench is working just as it should. But, if you notice slower growth than you expected, it might mean your soil cap was a bit too thin, or maybe decomposition is happening more slowly than you thought. Just adjust your approach for future trenches. Many gardeners who use this method actually report doubling or even tripling their yields from heavy-feeding crops. Tomato plants, for example, will often develop more side shoots and set more fruit clusters. Squash keeps producing fruit continuously instead of just in scattered flushes. And corn. It reaches its full height, with robust ears, rather than those thin, spindly stalks you sometimes see. These aren't exaggerations. They're just the predictable results of giving your plants abundant, easily accessible nutrition right where their roots feed. Your lush garden awaits. You now have a technique that can transform your garden from struggling to truly spectacular. The nutrient trench method isn't complicated, but it's honestly really effective. It works with nature, not against it, building up your soil for the long haul while feeding your hungriest plants. If you want, just start small. One trench is enough to prove the concept. Try out different materials and locations, and make sure to observe your results carefully. Within a season or two, you'll see for yourself whether the heavy feeders in your garden are showing more vigor and productivity than those planted in standard soil. Most gardeners find the difference is just undeniable. The energy you put into digging and layering comes back to you many times over in harvests, season after season. This is exactly the kind of knowledge that leads to truly productive, sustainable gardens. If this guide has inspired you, please subscribe to the Humus Heritage channel so you never miss our latest growing methods and soil building techniques. Share this video with other gardeners in your community. Together, we can really build a movement toward deeper, more nourishing organic gardening. And don't forget to leave your questions and your trench successes in the comments below. Here's to your most abundant harvest yet.